Welcome back to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. In this week's episode, I sit down with Madison Haddick, who is the winner of Ironman Wales 2025 for her age group. She is a phenomenal athlete, and we go into what makes her such a phenomenal athlete, what makes her stand out, whether that's things physically or maybe mentally, and things that you just wouldn't really expect. We go into the whole depths of performance triathlons and why triathlon in the first place, how she got there, and where the future is leading her currently. It was a really interesting episode. I highly recommend you stick around for this one, guys. Now, before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about our new Run Strong assessment. Now, this is an assessment for runners of any ability that want to find out how they can take their running to the next level. It might be something that's really simple, or it might be something that's a little bit more complicated. We test you along 3 different markers, whether that's performance, your resilience, or your mobility, and we take you through a series of tests, and by the end of the 2-hour slot, you will get a full report of what your scores were, what areas you need to work on, and give you an idea on what you need to do to move forward as a runner and improve your performance. To find out more about this, head over to adventureathletes.co.uk or drop me a message and I'll happily explain more about it. It's quite exciting, it's quite a new thing for us, and it's something that I really want to push. We're going to do it once a month, so the January slots are going to be on the 17th of January, which is a Saturday, and maybe extend out onto the 18th as well. So if you're interested, drop me a message and I will get you booked in. But for now, enjoy the podcast.
What was your call to adventure?
What was my call to adventure? If anyone was to like, oh, well, how would you perceive Maddie? They'd say busy. As in, I have a very busy lifestyle, but that's very much a reflection of my brain. And I don't do well doing nothing, if that makes any sense. Like, I need to be out and about. I need to be moving my body in some way. And I guess that's always been my call to adventure. I just love to explore. So I used to, as a youngster, as a kid, I used to like ask my mum if I could walk home from school, about 45 minutes through country lanes. And she'd always be like, yeah, okay. But I found it really weird that I wanted to. But I'd always take a different route home because I like to get lost and not know where I'm going and just like see new places. And I guess for many years, I ended up being put in a bit of a box because I did ballet, which wasn't that adventurous in terms of I was stuck in a hall or in like a studio on a bar doing all these different movements and practices. And I kind of got to a point in my life where I was bored. And I one day, we can explore this later, but one day got into triathlon and I found that freedom again by being on a bike and getting to essentially get myself lost in an area somewhere, not know where I was, and like enjoy finding my way back. I just like that really enjoyed me and excited me. I mean, sometimes it would scare me because I get lost and I'd be like, okay, I actually don't know how to get back. But I love to be out exploring and seeing what I come across.
Yeah. So what got you into triathlon then? What was that thing that sparked it?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of sport. Like I said, I did ballet as a youngster. I did horse riding, and that did play into my adventure side where I just get on a horse and gallop across a beach, and I found that incredible. But I got into running, not competitively. I didn't know what I was doing. I essentially ran because it got my heart rate up. And to me then, as a teenage girl, having my heart rate up, getting sweaty, I was burning calories. That's all I cared about. So I wouldn't go out and do like a nice zone 2 run and like enjoyment run. I would run as hard and as fast as I could for as long as I could to burn the calories. And when you do that and you have no experience in running, you're going to get injured. If you're running every day as hard as you can for as long as you can, it'd usually be somewhere between 5 and 10k. Anyway, I got injured, and at the time I was teaching yoga in a triathlon centre. So triathletes were coming into my class. I had no desire into triathlon, but because I couldn't run anymore and I couldn't burn calories like I did anymore, I was getting really frustrated. I was going through like a consultant to see what was wrong with my head, a hip injury basically. They diagnosed it as a torn labrum, potentially needing surgery, which I didn't like the sound of because I knew that would mean I'd be off my feet longer. So I got onto a watt bike class because the coaches there said, give it a go, like it'll give you that cardiovascular output that you're looking for. And one of the coaches, Danny, was like, oh, you're pushing pretty good watts. And that meant nothing to me. But she convinced me to sign up for a sprint triathlon, which was Swansea Triathlon back in, I think it was 2019. I was like, yeah, why not? Didn't even think about the fact that I'd have to open water swim. Didn't even think about the fact I had to buy a bike. But I knew I could run. And through cycling and through rehab, I got my hip back to health. And yeah, I did my first ever triathlon in Swansea and fell in absolute love with it. Like, absolutely loved it. All my pictures, I'm smiling. I came like not dead last, but you know, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had no goals with it. I just wanted to do it. And that was like my marathon then. Like, doing a sprint triathlon was like, wow, that's hard. And yeah, I was hooked.
Yeah. Where's that sort of led you to now? Like, from that first triathlon till now?
Yeah, so I think I'd already booked a couple more, which I did that year. I think it was Mumbles Tri and Gower Tri. One other was a sprint and one was an Olympic. And I was just kind of enjoying them. I had no coach, like I said, no direction. The motivation then was still calorie burning. I wanted to lose weight and I saw this as a way to do it. And it was through that I met some people that were doing things like ultra running or wanting to do ultra running, and they were like, will you sign up with me? So I signed up for an ultra, which I never did, as I mentioned before we came on to this. Nope, not one for ultra running, but we signed up for an ultra run together, which was cancelled because of COVID, but we'd started training for it. And as I was training for this ultra, we were doing long runs together, me and my friend, do my own stuff in the week. On the weekend we come together and do it together. I was running at her pace. She was a bit slower than me. So I was effectively finally running in zone 1, zone 2. And I was starting to notice, one, my fitness improving massively. And two, I was losing weight. So again, at this point, my goal was still to be this as small as I can human. And because I got fitter, and then she had a coach, she recommended me, you should get a coach. Like, it's really helpful. It takes the guesswork out. Again, I'm a busy person, like trying to program for myself when I had no idea what I was doing anyway was quite difficult. So I started getting coached, and my training shifted massively because it was actually structured and actually put me on the right track. And I think it must have been 2021, then I won a triathlon. Like, had no idea I had the capabilities to win something, and you know, I won and I felt amazing initially, and then I was like, oh, but you know, it was just after COVID, not many people probably signed up, blah blah blah. I was probably just lucky. But I continued to podium after that race, and I was like, okay, and I started to get more into the mindset of, okay, let's look at my performance now. Clearly I'm doing okay. Let's dial in. You know, my coach was already looking at my numbers and he knew what was what, but I didn't really understand it. I was just doing what I was told. So I started to get really interested in my data, in my performance, how I get faster. You know, like I started to look at how can I make my bike lighter and all the little tech stuff. And that led me eventually to doing Ironmans. And that's kind of my race now, is doing Ironmans and half Ironmans. I did Wales. I've done Wales twice, 3 years ago and this year, which I won this year, which is incredible, which was my goal. When I first did Ironman Wales, I said, I want to come back here one day and I want to win it. A first female age group athlete. And that was what I ticked off this year. So yeah, pretty cool. So
quite a big jump from pretty much like dead last to winning Ironman Wales.
Yeah, I tried to dig out like the results from my first triathlon, but I can't find them online. And I won't have them anywhere else. Like, I might have taken a screenshot, but I couldn't find it. And I literally do think I was probably last in my age group. Like, I don't think I was last, you know, I definitely wasn't the last female over the line, but I was definitely one of the slowest of the day. But I had the best time. There was no pressure on me, you know. And if I compare that to Ironman, what I've just done, I loved it, the Ironman. But putting that goal on myself and putting like, okay, I want to win and I want to do it roughly this time, there was a lot of pressure. So the enjoyment is taken a bit out of it, you know. So there's a big contrast in both how they felt. Yes, they're two very different distances, yes, I love them both, but I'd say that I don't think I'll ever beat that first triathlon. It hurt like hell. And I think I was in bed for a few days after it. It completely wiped me out physically, and like my immune system, even after a sprint, I was absolutely buggered. But having that no expectation on myself and just doing it for the enjoyment rather than for a goal, I don't think I'll ever match that.
Yeah. Do you ever think that you'll be able to do a triathlon again with that sort of feeling of like no expectations?
I really don't know. I hope so. And like when I first did my first Ironman, because I'd never done that distance before, again, the expectation was gone and I just loved it. So I always feel like my first Ironman will probably always be my favourite Ironman, and my first half Ironman was probably my favourite. So I don't know, like maybe if I did another distance, like I went and did some kind of even longer long distance triathlon maybe, or maybe, you know, if I take a break from it and start a family and then I go back to it, I'd probably, that pressure would be taken off. But I think while I'm being competitive now, it's hard to get into the mindset of just enjoying it.
Yeah.
I guess that I do get enjoyment from it, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But it's different. It's definitely different.
Yeah. What's sort of the thing that makes you good at triathlon then? Because you're obviously doing quite well at it.
Yeah, I don't know, because a lot of people say, oh, you're lucky, you must have good genes. And I'm like, well, if you look at me when I was younger, I wouldn't say I was the sportiest in school. I didn't really like sports. I would conveniently forget my PE kit. Like I said, I did ballet and horse riding, and I think that's set me up to have good like balance and strength in my lower body especially. But I think I'm just consistent. I used to, before I got into any kind of like cardiovascular stuff, I was in the gym doing weightlifting, bodybuilding, kind of stuff, not competitively, just, again, I wanted to look a certain way. And because I was in it probably for the wrong reasons, I would be really good for like a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then I'd like, I don't know, go out, get drunk, have a hangover, and then not go back to it for a few weeks. So I wasn't consistent, really. And I wasn't really improving. Whereas now, like, I'm super consistent, and I think I'm just stubborn. So that it gives me that ability to, even if I don't want to do it and I'm not motivated, I'm like, I have the goals, so I'm just consistent with it, and I make sure I get it done. Maybe sometimes at my own detriment. Maybe sometimes I need a day off, and I'm like, oh, but that's on plan. I should probably do it. But I don't think I'm, you know, made of special stuff and have these incredible genes or anything like that. I think I'm just stubborn, and I just refuse to be beat. And I don't mean beat as in like when I'm racing. I mean by my own mind. I'm just like, I've got to get it done. Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by, like, you're doing incredible things. And I like hearing that everyone I speak to is just normal people that are doing incredible things. But I'm still trying to figure out what makes them different from everyone else. So, like, where did that switch for consistency come from then? Because you said you was in the gym before, not staying super consistent, but now you are, and you're seeing the results. What was that turning point?
It's a hard one. It's one I kind of ponder myself. Like, I can go, you know, my story is quite large when I think about all the caveats to my life. And when I said I was like bodybuilding, it was, you know, I had an eating disorder. So I was bulimic. I had something called BED, which is called binge eating disorder, which I didn't think was a thing. I just thought binge eating was like a thing that we all do. I thought it was normal, but I would binge eat, make myself sick, and then starve myself. And that was my cycle. And I'm very open about it. It's something I've spoken about publicly quite a few times. And I did that. That was my way of controlling my life, weirdly. You know, I came from a really good upbringing. I had a wealthy family, a mum and dad that loved me very much, but they were very busy people, both entrepreneurs. And whilst I wanted for nothing in the physical sense, like if I needed new clothes, I'd get them, or, I had a roof over my head and we were comfortable. I didn't have that emotional support from them. Not they were bad parents, they just were so busy with their own lives. I didn't really ask for much in terms of like emotional support, that I just put it on myself. And so I think then this eating disorder came into it, so I could control this aspect of my life I didn't know how to use. I didn't know how to share my emotions healthily. And it was then from that where I ended up going through therapy and stuff, because I realised, well, my friends actually realised I had a problem with eating and training. I train like 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a day. When I was in the gym, it was kind of crazy when I was consistent. And then I drop off it for like a month. And I started going to therapy and talking, and they started, when I went into endurance sports, I still to this day drop in and out of therapy. And one of my therapists said something really interesting, how she had worked with a lot of people similar to me and how they'd all got into endurance sport and were like really locked in on it and doing really well. And I was thinking, okay, like, is it not that, like you said, people you've met who are doing amazing things, and I'm not sure if you're referring to endurance sport or just sport in general, but is it like, does it fill a void maybe? So like I said, for me personally, I think endurance sport has given me an outlet for this like internal emotional energy I get, which I can deal with a lot better now, and I can voice how I'm feeling. Finally, at the age of 30 odd, I can, which I couldn't for many years. But I feel like before I was able to do that, sport and endurance sport especially allowed me to get out of my head and just like into my body. So it became like my safe place. And that's probably what helped me be consistent, because I knew if I didn't do it, I'd feel worse off, because that was like my therapy session. You know what I mean? Go in for my long run, go in for my big bike. Swimming, maybe not so much, because that takes a bit more concentration. But if it was something I could just like shut out in, it was like a mental break from the busyness in my brain.
Yeah. I do think there's definitely some form of correlation between being good at endurance sports and some form of like need for therapy.
I think so, yeah. Like, I don't know if like you're able to endure pain a bit more. I don't really know. Like I said, I haven't had an awful upbringing. You know, by no like stretch of the word. Like, I wouldn't say like it was a challenging. Well, no, I would lie if I say it wasn't a challenging. I had challenging like childhood. Like, it was quite. There was a lot going on, but it wasn't bad. So I sometimes feel like a fraud, being like I had to go to therapy, but I did. You know, I had to go, and it was really beneficial for me. Yeah, and whether, like I said, there must be some. I think there is some data out there that says there's a correlation between people that have been through trauma and endurance sport. Like, they tend to funnel up into it for whatever reason, and it's interesting. It's something I study psychology, so it's something I want to look into a little bit more as well. But yeah, we'll add that to my ever long list of tasks that I have going on in my life.
I do find it interesting how you're talking about you feel like a fraud that you had to go to therapy, because I feel like a lot of people feel like that. It's
not like I feel like a fraud. I think everyone should go to therapy, even if you're having you know, like, we all go to the doctors for little or big things, and I think you should but what I mean is, like, you know, some people have, there's no such thing in my eyes as, like, for example, what I could perceive as being traumatic to me might not be traumatic to you. You could go through the exact same situation as me and it not affect you, and it could really affect me, and vice versa. You could go through something that, say something not small, but say, I don't know, you got hit over by a car when you were young, but you were okay. Like, it was scary, but you know, you weren't like fighting for your life. And the same could happen to me. Completely same situation, but two different people. Both walk away from it fine, but you're now petrified and can't, you know, walk around cars or whatever, or it's got into your head, and I'm like fine, and I'm like whatever, and I still walk out in front of cars by accident, and I'm completely willy-nilly to it. So, like, you know, two people can go through the exact same thing, but their nervous systems react completely different to it, and they have a different outlook on it. And I think that's the same with that's how I kind of apply it to myself. It's not that I feel like a fraud, it's just I hate people that will know me from a youngster were like, you had everything. Like, from the outside looking in. Yeah. Said I went to a private school. I had, like, you know, good friends around me. I had a great mum and dad that wanted everything for me. So looking into my life looked amazing, but living my life wasn't so amazing. Like I said, my parents weren't really there, you know. Except they were doing the best they could with the awareness they had, is what I say. And I'm really close with my parents. But I have to have my space for them even now as an adult, you know. So it's not that, like, I feel like a fraud as such. It's just sometimes I think I got to, like, explain it a little bit. If that makes any sense.
No.
And I think when I told my parents I went to therapy, they were like, oh, why? They were like, why? And I was like, without telling you how you hurt me, not that you meant to. It was an uncomfortable conversation to have with my parents, you know, to be like, well, you did this and X, Y, and Z, and you were great people, but you weren't great parents. And that's what I say to them. I was like, my parents are amazing people, but they're a bit shitty when it comes to being a parent. And I mean that with the most love. Like, they brought me up and I'm here and I'm doing great things with my life. Yeah. So they're obviously not awful parents, but they weren't what I needed then, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense. I always when people talk about therapy, they always assume that there's got to be a big trauma involved. They've got to assume it's like something massive that's happened in their life, and they feel like they're wasting the therapist's time if they just feel like down about something. And I'm like, all a therapist is doing is helping you find better coping mechanisms for whatever it is that you're going through. It doesn't have to be traumatic. Like, I recommend everyone go to therapy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, you can learn so much about yourself from therapy. It doesn't have to be like, oh, well, I was like abused or anything like
yeah,
that.
exactly that.
But that's the view everyone's got, right?
Yeah,
so when you say
bad,
you've
really
gone to therapy,
bad has to have happened. Yeah,
they're like, well, what happened to you? And it's like, well, nothing. I want to cope with life a bit better.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly it. And like, that's something I learned is like, you know, I blamed my parents for a lot of things growing up, but then I got into the mindset and I started to realize that, you know, and I know my parents' upbringing, and they didn't have great upbringings. My parents, they came from very poor backgrounds. My grandfather was a drunk, and my grandfather on the other side died young, so my dad was without his dad, and all, you know. So I like, when I got to understand their background, I realized, well, they're just bringing me up the best way they know how, which might not be the best way in the grand scheme of everyone in the world, but they were doing the best with the emotional state that they were in, for one. And to what they knew. Like, I was my mum's first child. My father already had 2 sons, but I was my mum's first baby. Like, she'd never done it before. She didn't know what she was doing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it was a new thing for her to be a mother. And she tried to give me everything she didn't have. So she wanted me to do ballet, horse riding, go to private school, do all these amazing things that she wished she'd had. But she was trying to live her life through me, and that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and I couldn't voice that because I didn't understand it when I was so young. And as I got older, I started to realize, okay, this isn't what I want. And when I was old enough to say what I needed, I didn't still know how to. And that's where therapy came in. It helped me understand how to voice my emotions healthily. Because rather than me say to my mum, oh, mum, I don't want to do this because of X, Y, or Z, I just have I'd act out in some way because I didn't have the ability to confide in my mum because she'd never taught me how to do that.
Yeah.
And she's the same. Even now, it's funny because I've been to therapy. My mum hasn't, as far as I'm aware. It's funny because like, I'm like viewing my mum as the child now, and I'm like, mum, like you need to express how you're feeling, because sometimes, you know, I can pick something up with her how I used to act, and I'm like, it's like the roles have been reversed and I'm trying to like parent my mum now. Yeah. Which is really weird. And I'm like, oh, like, if you're feeling that way, mum, you just need to like say it, but say it like this, because she bites people's heads off a little bit, which I used to do. And I'm like, it's really interesting now. It's like, from the therapy that I've had, I can understand my mum better, which means I don't take offense.
Yeah.
I kind of have a bit more compassion for her and empathy for her, and I'm like, okay, she's only saying it that way because she's not got the awareness that I've now got from having therapy. Yeah. So I think it's amazing. I say to everyone, just go to therapy. Like, even if you're feeling good in life, just to talk to somebody that has no bias towards you, so they're not a friend, they haven't got like an emotional investment in you. It's just nice to hear their perspective on things. Yeah. And it's not always what you want to hear. Like, a lot of the time they're like, you're probably like, you know, need to see this differently. And you're like, okay. And when someone who's, one, is a professional and two, has no investment in your life, you kind of take it for what it is, rather than, you know, like if a friend says that, you're like, oh, well, they're only saying that because of X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I think everyone should do therapy. Definitely.
I think a lot of causes for people sort of needing therapy, or the things that they would go to therapy for, are a lot to do with their parents. Yeah. And I think that, like, the way I sort of started viewing it after therapy was I started to reflect on my own life, and I've just turned 30. Mm-hmm. My parents had me when they were like early 20s. Yeah. So I'm like, I can't imagine raising a kid now. Yeah. I would get it so wrong. Mm-hmm. How could I expect my parents to do any better when they were younger? Like, when I was in my early 20s, there was no way I'd be able to do a good job at parenting.
I was a wreckhead. I was out partying until God knows what. You know, I didn't have the stability in my life or the emotional capacity to be a parent at that age. But you think, you know, I remember growing up being like, I don't know, 16. I'm like, by the time I'm 22, I'll be married, and then I'll have my first baby when I'm, you know, you have all these like ideas of what your life will be. And I've just like turned 31, well, this year, and I'm like, wow, like that expectation of what I had and what's actually reality. And I'm really glad for it. Like, I've always said before, I'm having, like, I probably have a block of therapy before even trying to have children, just so I want to make sure that I'm passing as little of my crap down, you know, to somebody else, because I know how hard it is, like, to not have a parent that shows up for you in the right way. So I think, yeah, maybe having children should come with like a course. You have to have a therapy course first to minimise the damage.
Might not be a bad idea. But then I always look at it and, like, I'm similar to you. Like, I don't think I had like a awful childhood. Mm-hmm. Like, my parents loved me. Mm-hmm. there was just a lot of things that they got wrong, because
Yeah.
everyone's going to get things wrong. But I always look back and I'm like, well, without that, like, I wouldn't be doing the stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard for me sometimes to express that, because I'm like, well, I wouldn't recommend anyone goes through the sort of stuff I've been through.
Yes.
But at the same time, they admire the qualities that I've got from going through that.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can have both, really.
Yeah, I read like that's exactly kind of the mindset I'm in. Like, I moved out when I was 15, like really young. I was in college. I went to college when I was 15, and I had a weekend job, and I moved in with my like childhood boyfriend. You know, we were together 5 years, and we got together that year, and I moved in with him and his family just to get away from the craziness that was my house. And you know, you think you know the world when you're that age anyway. Like, I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And it was fine. Like, you know, his parents were incredible. They were like my second parents. And, you know, but we eventually broke up, and I had to go back, you know, obviously home. And I went through all these different experiences, and I was always known as being very independent, you know, but people put that on me like it was a good thing. Like, you're so independent. And you think, okay, I need to be more independent, because that's apparently a good thing, because people are telling me it's a good thing. And I unfortunately went the other way, where I became too independent, where I would be struggling, but I wouldn't ask anyone for help. But then I got labelled as the strong person, and all these things came on me because of the situations I'd been in. And I was really unhappy and really stressed for a lot of my late teens, early 20s, but also went out partying. So had my release that way, I guess. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone to have the life that I did for the years that I did. But would I be here where I am today? And like, I don't rely on anyone, and I quite like that. Like, I like that I'm completely self-sufficient. Like, I don't need my parent. Like, obviously it's nice to have them in your life, but I don't need my parents for money or anything. And I haven't since I've been like 15. You know, I've like been pretty self-sufficient. And you know, I've got my own house, and I did all these things that would I have done if I'd had like a silver spoon life where everything was amazing? No, I probably would have been a bit more of a spoilt brat and expected things, and I've had to work really hard to get the things that I've had, and I've got a good work ethic. Would I have had that if everything had been hunky-dory and everything had been, you know, super easy? Probably not. So like you said, it's like a weird tipping scale, isn't it? It's finding that balance.
Yeah. It's why I find it really hard to like accept compliments, because people are like, oh, you're so strong-minded and stuff.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, this is just the life I had to be. It's what I had to be to get through life.
That's it. You feel like you had to.
It's not like
to be. Yeah. It's not like something you've necessarily worked for, but it's also something that I don't think should be admired as much.
No,
when people are like saying like, oh yeah, like you're strong-minded, and it's like, yeah, like for me, like I attempted suicide, and like when people are like, oh, you're so strong-minded, you've got through this, and I'm like, yeah, because this is easier than what I was going through when I was suicidal.
Yeah.
So having you praise me for this, I don't see it as a good thing. Like, it's really hard for me to accept that. And it's like, you don't want to be like this.
Yeah, I don't 10 out of 10 don't recommend it.
Yeah, like I get that you appreciate the things that I'm doing with my life now, but I'm only doing it because of like negative things that have happened.
Yeah, it's off the negative things that I've in my life. Like, some of the best things have become off the back of some of the negativity that I've had to overcome and push myself away from. But then it's like, I wouldn't want anyone to go through that just to have that skill now. Like, there must be an easier way. Do you know what I mean? There must be an easier way. And like, you know, I haven't tried to commit suicide in a serious way, as in I stole my mum's antidepressants when I was young and took like 8 or 9 of them, and they were apparently really strong. And was it because I was trying to commit suicide? No, it was more because they were drugs and I thought they'd make me feel good. Do you know what I mean? But I got really ill off them, and you know, I drunk too much alcohol and had alcohol poisoning when I was like 14, to the point my parents had to take me, wouldn't let me go to school because I was, again, nearly hospitalized. So like, I would say I was not suicidal, but I was reckless, because that was the only way I knew how to be happy, weirdly, which was not happy, because as soon as the alcohol like was gotten out of my system, or the drugs were out of my system, I was back to living my reality, which wasn't happy. But the alcohol and the drugs was the one thing that made me feel like I was in control, which is so ironic, because we all know that it does the actual opposite. But So I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I was making decisions that could have ended up me going down a different path, which could have ended up suicide, definitely, because I was so depressed, like so unhappy with life basically because I didn't know how to handle my own emotions, which is something you think is a basic thing to learn as a child, but I just didn't. I really didn't. And even now, like, I notice, like, if I'm going through something tough or if someone upsets me, I still find it really hard to voice. Like, say you said something that really offended me, I wouldn't be able to be like, do you know what, that offended me. I wouldn't be able to just say that in like in a way, because then I'd be afraid that I would upset you, which is ridiculous. And instead of like saying that, I just shut down and be like off with you, like a child. Like I shut down and I like regress to like childhood behaviors, like silent treatment is like my go-to. So I've like, even though I've been through therapy and even though I have an awareness now, which is so much better, because I'm like, oh, I've gone into this childish bloody thing again where I'm giving someone silent treatment because I don't know how to address how they made me feel. So I have that awareness now, but I still struggle to like apply that. Yeah. And that's when then my brain goes, oh, go have a nice glass of wine because that'll relax you and then you'll be able to say it. So I've got to really still keep myself in check. I'm not teetotal. Like I do have a glass of wine here and there, and over Christmas I had definitely more than a glass of wine. But I don't do it for the same reasons now. I do it because I enjoy a glass of wine. But those thoughts are still there. Yeah. And I don't know if you like resonate that yourself with like suicide. Like hopefully you're not having suicidal thoughts now, but do you ever notice that your mind like reverts back to that time and you're like, oh, remember, and I don't know, it's like a weird awareness. Yeah. Where you're like aware of what you used to do and where you were. And you're not there, but you can like still like, I don't know, drop into that space. I don't really know how to describe it other than as that.
Yeah, no, I can completely resonate with that. Yeah. And I know like a few of the listeners will as well, because I know some of the people that listen.
Yeah, so, I know your story.
Yeah, they know who they are. Yeah. This is the thing I try and tell people as well, because I do a lot for like mental health work. I'm an ambassador for Sport in Mind, a mental health charity, amazing. And all things like that. And people see me and like will look up to me and be like, "Oh, well, like you've been through it. Like, what are the solutions?" And they're like, "Oh, like I've been doing all the right things, but I still fall back into it." And I'm like, it never ends. Like, you get better at realizing it, and hopefully you shorten the sort of span of time between like recognizing it and acting on it. And you can just get that shorter, but you're never just going to be like, I'm fixed.
Yeah, that's it. Like, especially in like terms of like my eating disorder, I've still got to keep myself in check. I eat whatever I want. I don't restrict myself anymore. Other than I live a vegan lifestyle, so I don't eat meat. But I'm not cutting that out because I don't want to eat it. It's because it's not in line with my morals. So yes, I have a restrictive diet in some respect, but not. But then there's some times where I'll like, I don't know, I'll be having a bad day. I'll look in the mirror and I'll be like, ooh, maybe I should start restricting and lose a bit of weight and, get a little bit leaner again. And I recognize it straight away now. And I'm like, oh, here she goes. Like, and I don't ever follow it through. But then a few years ago, I remember texting my friends because it was the worst it had been in a while. And I was like, girls, I feel like I want to make myself sick. Like, they know my story and they're like, are you okay? Like, what's going on in your life? And then I just offload to them and I'm like, oh, it's gone. Like, it's like things build up, but I'm forever keeping myself in check. And I say to people, it doesn't end. Like, I think it's something I'll always live with, but I just have this awareness and I have this better relationship with myself that I don't honor those thoughts anymore. Like, I let them be there. I recognize and I'm like, okay, I'll let them go. I don't need to act on them. I don't need to like, spiral them. I just need to know they're there. Be like, oh, hello, old friend. And then just move on with my day. Or be like, okay, if this has come back, why? Like, what am I neglecting in life? Something's obviously going on for me to be feeling these because they don't come as often these days. So usually when they do, I'm like, okay, I'm a bit stressed in the minute. Where can I deload my schedule? Or maybe I just need to have a day off and rot on the sofa, which is like my favourite thing to do. And I don't get to do it often. So yeah, I think it's just an eternal battle, which sounds depressing, but at the same time, it does remind me of where I've come from, and it does give me an appreciation of like my own strength, definitely. Yeah,
I also just think that like I've built up 30 years of these thoughts and these patterns, like they're pretty ingrained now, and I'm like, yeah, I've been doing well for, 3-5 years, however long it is. I'm like, that's nothing compared to the 25 beforehand. Like, it's going to take a long time to work through.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are coming to me and they're like, oh, I've been doing this for like a month now. I've been coming to the gym. I've been drinking. I've been eating healthier and doing all these things. I've gone to therapy and I'm still like this. And I'm like, yeah.
It's going to take a bit longer. Well, yeah, because like I said, I study psychology. I'm on a study break at the minute. But one thing that I found really interesting but also beneficial, what I learned, was about neuroplasticity. And it's like what this, like, cells that fire together wire together is the basic term. And it's like the thoughts, when you're thinking of a thought, it is, you know, a little bit of an electrical thing going on in your brain. And the more you think about something, the stronger it becomes. Our body likes familiarity. Our brain likes familiarity. So that's why, like, if you think when you were back in school, I'm going to use math. I was good at maths somehow. I don't know how, but I was. And when you're doing all these same, sums over and over again, and these different, like, in like algebra, and you had all these equations and like find x and all that stuff, and you get good at it because or maybe you didn't if you're not good at maths. But for me, I did. You asked me to do it now, even though I was very competent 15, 16 years ago at them, I wouldn't have a clue now because I haven't had to do those equations for 15 odd years. But if I had a week and I just went over and over them again, I'd strengthen that, that circuit, and I'd be able to do it again, basically. So it's the same like in the gym. If you don't use it, you lose it. Same with any sport. If you don't keep doing the skills that you do, you'll lose it. Doesn't mean you can't get it back, right? You can obviously train it again. And that's what I found really beneficial with my own healing, is reminding myself these negative thoughts that I have, if I keep thinking about them, which is I used to just ruminate and I just repeat them, the more you think about them, the stronger they get. So I learned a little technique, which was, say I had a bad thought and it was me looking in the mirror, oh, I look fat today. I'd have to straight away, I would internally or externally go stop, like whether it was out loud, if I was on my own it'd be out loud, if I was like in company or somewhere like in the gym, it'd be in my brain. I'd just say stop and I'd reframe that thought. And it would usually make me cringe because I'd have to do it with the opposite. I'd be like, oh, you look good today. I never felt comfortable being like, oh, you look pretty. That wasn't, I could not say that about myself. But I'd be like, you look strong or whatever. And I'd repeat that 3 times. And every time I had a bad thought, I'd say stop. And I'd repeat the positive thought 3 times. It was more than the one to strengthen that one. And it's something I still use. And it's something I say to my athletes that I coach who like might have a bad session and they're like, oh, I feel really bad about this session. I'm like, well, okay, we'll pick out something positive from the session and just focus on that. Yes, okay, this didn't go to plan and your heart rate was sky high and this was here. But, zoom out. Like, this is one session, one bad session out of the last 3 weeks where you've smashed it. Like, focus on the good. And, yeah, that's a technique that I will die on a hill for because it's something that's really helped. And, it's... People think it's a bit airy-fairy, like reframe the thought, but it there is backed by science, and like neuroplasticity is something that wasn't discovered until, recently in the grand scheme of things. And it's so effective, just reframe your thoughts. And it's not as simple as that because, if someone came to me who was suicidal and was like, oh, you told me about reframing my thoughts, it's not working for me. I'm like, well, no, because you've not got to the reason as to why you already feel this way. So you can keep reframing thoughts, but more thoughts are going to keep coming until you deal with that, obviously, like root issue. Like it's just not going to, you can't, put a bit of sellotape over a gaping hole in a swimming pool, can you? You've got to get it fixed. Like you've got to get that liner fixed and before you do the external work. And it's the same. So, yeah, you should try that. If you ever get like really annoying thoughts that you can't shift in a day, try like reframe them. And it does make you cringe. Makes me cringe. Yeah, but it does help. Definitely helps.
I was gonna say I'm gonna steal that for my client.
Yeah, like it really helped. Like because mine was more about how I looked. One therapist was like, right, I want you to look in the mirror every morning and say 3 things nice about your body. You don't have to be like, oh, I look sexy. But like I said, it could be I look strong. She would make me say like, I look pretty. And I used to literally be like, what, in the mirror at myself because I was like, it felt weird to say that about yourself. And to compliment yourself's really hard, right? Like, like you said, it's hard to accept a compliment of somebody else. But imagine complimenting yourself. Like, even now I find that really hard to do and I'm working on it. But it really helped. So every morning I'd walk to my bloody mirror, I'd be like, oh, here we go again. And I'd say these 3 positive things about my body. It'd be like, oh, my leg, my quads look good today. It'd be something really stupid and what seems like trivial. But over time, it got to a point where I could tolerate looking at my body and not feeling, ugh. And then it got to a point where I'd be like, oh, I actually quite like my body. And it then got to a point where I was like, I actually love my body. Like, I love what it does for me. Like, if I didn't have this body, I wouldn't be able to go on my adventures and do all my walking and my running and my cycling and my swimming, blah, blah, blah. So, I got to a really good place with it. But when I do slip back, that's what I go back to, that little technique of just reframing it.
Yeah. How do you think that this is affecting your performance now? Because we're saying like trauma and therapy and everything sort of leads you into these endurance sports. But then I've always found it interesting how when you go to therapy and you start using these positive techniques, if you're already in the endurance sports, it helps you. And that's really counterintuitive to me.
It is. This is actually a weird worry of mine. I'm like, will I lose my edge the better my mental state gets? Which sounds really bizarre, because mental health and having good mental health is obviously going to be my priority. But I have noticed I feel less competitive in my mind. As in, I'm definitely competitive physically, because I'm there and I'm competing and I'm, podiuming and stuff. But I feel like my edge to like push more, I can still do it, I can still push more, but I don't feel the need to. And it's something that I'm like playing with at the moment. I'm thinking like, there's been races, like virtually mainly, like cycle races and stuff, where my head's given up before my body, and not given up because like I've been to the point where my head's given up because I've like lost my head, but I'm just like, why am I trying to win? Like, what am I trying to prove? Because, I'm finishing second or third instead, and I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not upset about it. I don't know. I've definitely noticed a shift, especially over the last year, with how I feel about being a competitive athlete. Like, it's not my bread and butter. I don't make a living off it. My coach has said, why don't we play with the idea of you going pro as a triathlete? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm that bothered. Whereas 2 years ago, I would have been like, yes, let's go for it. Let's do it. I feel more happy within myself. And it does worry me, because I'm like, am I going to lose that competitive? So I'm like, well, if I do, does it matter? And that's kind of where I'm at the minute. It's a weird one, because I think about how I feel when I win. Like, I won Ironman Wales this year, and that was my goal. And I did feel amazing initially. I was like, it had been very emotional leading up to it. My partner he got hit off his bike. So he was in hospital in August. He couldn't then race Wales. So I was like, my head wasn't in Wales. I was gonna pull out, but I knew, I guess deep down I wasn't gonna pull out, because I wouldn't want to waste 600 odd quid that I paid to do the entry. But I was at that point where I was like, well, maybe it's wise that I pull out, because I haven't trained really. And, I got bits done, but not trained to the capacity that I would have liked to leading into my A race of the year. And I was, when I was racing that race, I cried a lot. It was a very eventful race. A lot of things went wrong, despite still getting the result I wanted. But I crossed the line, and I was, oh my God, I've just won Ironman Wales. Like, that was my goal from years ago, and I didn't even know if it was ever achievable. And after it, I didn't when I've won other races, or even come second or third or even fifth, I've been like, I've had this buzz for a while after, and I didn't have it, and I didn't race it as fast as I wanted to despite winning. But weather plays into that, and you're not always gonna get the times you want if you've got a headwind, etc. But it's something I'm still trying to unpack. I'm like, why wasn't I as elated? And it wasn't because I was just so like emotionally empty after the months leading up to it with the crash, and the day was challenging. And I don't know, it's something I'm still trying to figure out. Like, or did I used to just get more from winning, because I thought I had something to prove, where I don't feel like I have that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's watch this space. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Because that's another thing that I've just been finding fascinating, because obviously I talk to a lot of people doing the podcast, and a lot of them have got those sorts of like traumatic stories, like we were saying, not like massive trauma. Some of them do, but not all of them. But there's that thing inside them that's leading them into high level endurance feats. But then I do sort of see it's really mixed. I see some people that sort of deal with those issues, and they will go one of two ways. They'll either be like, well, why am I doing this? Like you're saying, like feeling like they've lost that edge, and being okay with it, and being like, I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I've like dealt with the issue.
Yeah.
Or some of them then get better because like they might not be overtraining anymore, but like feeling like they have to push because they've got that edge.
Yeah.
They might be like, well, I don't have that edge, so I can take a rest day, and it ends up being better for performance.
And I think that's what I need. So I get 2 rest days a week off my coach. I don't rest. I swim on both those days and I gym as well. So that's my swim and gym days. So that's not rest at all. And I'm starting to be like, okay, well, nothing bad's going to happen if I just take a day off. And I was forced to take a day off here and there when Ryan was in hospital, because I was in the hospital all day and the day it happened. And I mean, I'd swam that morning before I realised the crash had happened. And I did take a few rest days off. And actually speaking to him, like, he was obviously forced, he had to have multiple operations and stuff, and he was in hospital for about a week, and when he was out of hospital he couldn't walk, so he was just laid up on the sofa for a while, so obviously he couldn't train at all, broken bones, he had to have skin grafts and everything. And even though he wouldn't wish it on anyone, the crash, he was actually like kind of the break I needed in a weird way. Like, he's noticed his fitness has come back better, and he's actually rested, because he, like me, wouldn't take a rest day. Like, he'd have an easier day, which was low volume, low intensity, but he never actually had a day off. And I think we're both realising the same now, like, okay, maybe we need to take more rest. And will that, because I feel like I've plateaued a little bit recently. My running is going better and better, which is weird because it's not my strongest. I would have always said my bike is the strongest and my favourite. But I feel like my bike's plateaued, and my swimming is swimming. Sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. You never know until you start swimming, really. And I think, like, okay, maybe I just need to take a day off a week, stick to it, and see how it goes, and like have a play around. I feel like I'm more flexible now with my approach. Whereas before, if my coach gave me, say 14 sessions a week, we use that number, and I'd make sure I hit every session. No matter how I was feeling, if I was a bit unwell, whatever, tired, I'd get it done regardless. And I was so rigid in the way I approached training. Now I'm like, do I just allow myself to be more flexible? And, if I can only do 12 of those 14 sessions, that's still okay. Like, it's still being consistent because I'm still showing up, but I'm just being a bit more clever about what training I do if I'm not 100% or if I'm tired, etc.
Yeah. I really struggle with that. Like, I am the same as you. Train every day as much as you can. The more training, the better. Yeah. But then, since I did, so I did 6 ultras over 6 days.
Oh, bloody
last year, and then since then I've been like a bit more flexible with like, I'll take a day off if I'm really not feeling it.
Yeah.
But then I've started to find myself like slipping into that too much and being like, well, now I'm
going
taking too many rest days.
Yeah, and that's what I think worries me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, once I get comfortable taking a full rest day, where does it stop? Because like I said, even though I'm a very busy person and I'm very active, there is nothing I love more, like I said, than laying on the sofa and rotting for hours, just watching films. I could do that all day for a week, like quite happily. But, well, obviously, maybe not quite happily because I get bored eventually and I need to train. But I'm like, I could get comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I know I can, because as a teenager, that's what I did. Like, I'd go out drinking with my friends and I'd spend Saturday, Sunday just on the sofa in between, in between going out, and had no, like, shame. Like, would just lay there all day. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be there again.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's not a silly thought, but like, I know I wouldn't end up being back there. But it does always, I do still think, oh, well, I have the potential to. Like, I've done it before, so there's nothing stopping me doing it again. And I think that's the worry for me, is like, oh, it's a slippery slope down then. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
For me, like, the rest days definitely affect me more mentally than they do physically. Like, I get so in my head on a rest day.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I should have done something.
Yeah.
Why didn't I do something? Even if I'm like... Because a lot of the rest days I take at the minute are because I'm doing so much for my business. Like, Monday, I did like a 17-hour day where I was just working. You just
couldn't have trained, like,
and I'm just like, yeah, I can't train. But then I'm still like, well, you should have made time for it. You should have fitted it in somewhere. and I'm like, but I'm still doing stuff. I wasn't being lazy. I was
just
working.
Yeah.
But I still have those thoughts, and I still beat myself up about it. And then like, I think it was like last week or something, I took 2 rest days in a week, and I was like, fucking hell, you're getting lazy, Will. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and it's like on those days that you're having a rest in training, you're still very busy. And it's like with me, if I have a rest day, I've got a husky, so he requires walking, obviously. And, you know, I'm out walking with him 3 times in that one day. And I'm teaching yoga classes. That's not rest, you know. Like, yes, I'm teaching, so I'm adjusting, I'm more hands-on, but I'm still having to do a lot of yoga. And, you know, well, like you said, when you're self-employed, you've got other things to do, admin, like everything. Like, it's a lot. So you're still busy. But you're not physically like pushing yourself. I think that's where it becomes hard, because that's what you recognize as being busy, I think. You know what I mean? And it's funny because you might feel the same because you coach. Like, one of the things I really push on my clients is take your rest days. Like, and it is a case of like, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm the same. Like, even with fueling, I don't mind fueling. Like, I'm happy. My diet is pretty much just carbs. Like, I love carbs, love chocolate as well. And I will emphasize to all my clients, but don't train fasted, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, if it's a super easy session, it's super early, rather than get up, you know, because for me personally, I can't swim after I've eaten. So I have to swim fasted, because I swim at 6 in the morning. There's no way I'm getting up at 4 to eat, just so it's gone down. If I eat at like 5, half 5, it's too late. When I'm in the pool, I'm going to be sick. Like, I just, even if it's an easy one. And that's just me. Like, I don't do well off food and then training unless it's a bike. But I always like reiterate to my clients, make sure you're fueling well, and on your long sessions, make sure you take your gels. And then I'll go on like a 4-hour ride on the weekend. I'll take gels with me, and I'll forget, and I'll get home. I'll be like, oh, freaking hell, I've had like no carbs for this whole 4-hour ride. And I don't bonk, you know, like some people like get dizzy and kind of go hypoglycemic. I don't. Like, my body does tolerate it really well. But I have to like really reiterate to my clients, don't do what I do. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, but you're winning. I'm like, yeah, but it works for me, but it's not the right way. Like, you know, doing no fueling when you're training and not taking rest days is definitely not what I recommend. Yeah. So I'm trying to live better by my own example. That is one of my goals for 2026. And I'm not like a New Year's resolution kind of person, but I said, right, I need to be a good example for my athletes. Yeah. Like, they need to know that this is the right way, not the way that I'm doing it currently.
I always tell people that use that argument against me, being like, oh, well, look how well you're doing. And I'm just like, think how much better I could be doing if I did things properly.
This. Yeah, and
like, I'm doing well, but I could be doing like amazing.
Yeah, well, I went on a training camp last year, and it was like 100-miler day on the bike. And I was a bit, because it was warmer there, and I don't do as well in the heat, and we were going to be a long way, obviously, from our apartment. I was like, right, I need to make sure I'm fueling well. And I did. I fueled from the get-go, and I was quite rigid. I put, like, reminder on my bike computer, my Wahoo. And I got, like, towards the end of the ride, and I was like, I'm feeling really freaking good. I was like, like, not that I ever feel bad at the end of a ride, but I just felt, like, noticeably, like, I could do another 100 miles, like, right now. Like, and I was like, maybe if I just fuel like this all the time, I'd always feel well. And I definitely have enough calories in the day, but it's just during a session, I need to be a bit more on the ball, I think. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. I remember that ride had gone from, like, Palenza in Mallorca all the way down to Palma and back. It was a lovely ride. And I was like, because I was so apprehensive, I think that's what made me fuel and hydrate well. And we stopped regularly to refill our bottles. I was like, this is what being fueled feels like. Yeah. So
I think it's always emphasized at an event, being like, make sure you're fueling properly, carb loaded, whatever. Yeah. But then I think that the main benefit is in training, because if you feel like that when you're training and you're like, I actually feel really good. How much better is your training going to be? Exactly. So your performance will go up.
And it's the same with rest days, right? You think if you take that rest day, those hard sessions will probably come to you a lot easier. Or you'll hit better numbers because your body's actually bloody rested. Yeah. so we know it. We know the science. We know what we should be doing. It's just, it's a bit hard when your mind comes into it, isn't it? Like, you've got like your logical mind, which knows what's right. And then you've got your emotional side, which is like, but I want to train today because if I don't, I feel like I'm going to go crazy. Yeah. And that's the hard one. It's the emotional side of the brain that's hard for me to shut off, definitely.
Yeah. I've set my clients going into the new year a 90-day challenge. So it's like, right, we've been training well, we've done all these things, you've got all your goals, but I want to be like really strict now for the next 90 days. You're hitting your water, you're hitting your sleep, and you've got all these goals. You don't have to hit them every day, like that's unrealistic, but like we're trying to get more consistent with them. And then I was like, oh, I should probably join in too, shouldn't I?
I probably need this more than them.
So I was like, right, I'll join in. And then I'm like, oh, so I don't drink enough, I don't sleep enough, I haven't been, there's days where I don't eat enough because I'm busy and I forget, or there's days where I eat too much and too much of the wrong stuff. And I'm just like, like I'm probably going to see a good boost in performance over the next 90 days.
Yeah, you probably will.
And I'm just hoping it will convince me to stick with it myself, because I keep telling my clients
that's it as well when you're self-employed, especially in the industry that we're in with like sport. Like it's not the most sociable hours, is it? It's like mornings and evenings tend to be the busiest, which for me makes sleep really hard, because I'm up at 5 every day, Monday to Friday anyway, and then some days I don't get home till 9 p.m. So by the time I've eaten and like I need to like wind down before I get into bed, it's like I might not be getting to sleep till 11, but then I'm up at 5 again, so I'm getting like 6 hours. It's not really ideal, but it's just unfortunately comes with the lifestyle, I guess. And unless I drop clients or work or whatever, then it's still just the way it is.
It's quite ironic, really, because like every PT and coach is going to be going through the same thing. But we're the ones that are trying to promote it.
I know,
but it's just part of the job.
It is kind of
we can't do anything.
It is just part of the job. It's just like, it's like when I used to teach 17, I think it was, yoga classes a week, which is a lot, 17 hours, and then obviously get into the studio. There were different studios, so it was a very busy week, and it was weekends as well. Like I worked every day, and I'm promoting like this chill, calm, and like, you've got to find time for you, and I'm the one that's like needing it the most, but I'm the one teaching it. It was like I feel fake because I'm trying to get these people to incorporate these things into their life, whereas I haven't got time to do it for myself. Which was quite, and I'm telling them, well, if you're busy and you say you haven't got time for meditation, then you need meditation more. And I'd say this and stuff like that to them, and I'm like, freaking hell, I need to like take a leaf out of my own book. And I did. I literally cut my classes down to 8, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna actually live by my. And took me a while, probably a few years, to make that decision, and I still stand by it being the best thing I did. Like, yes, I was losing work, but I found work from other ways that worked within my lifestyle better. And I won't never go back to teaching that many bloody yoga classes ever again. Like I was the burnt out yogi, which is the complete opposite of what yoga should be.
Yeah, but I think most of them are, right?
Yeah, especially when you're new to the industry, you just want to pick up classes everywhere, and like you want to cover everyone's class. You put your foot forward for everything. But now I'm like, nah. I think I teach like 5 classes a week now, and I'm like, that is enough. And that feels like too much. So I've come a long way from my 17 classes.
You've probably filled it with other stuff though, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm like probably busier than I ever have been at the minute, but it's more flexible. So I do get some evenings off, and I do get some mornings off work, but then I have to get up for training, so still up at 5.
No, that's what I'm finding, like, since doing my business, is I now have, like, I've got weekends off most of the time. I've never had weekends off in my life. Yeah,
that's become a non-negotiable for me now, is I have weekends off. I do the odd retreat, which will fall on a weekend, which is fine. I don't mind that. And I love doing the retreats, but yeah, it's like a non-negotiable. I do not work on weekends. Like, that's my time.
Yeah.
And that's like... That was a big step for me, because I'm a yes person, and like someone asked me to take this class, I'm like yeah. And don't get me wrong, I will now and then cover a class, but like it's probably like twice a year I'll say yes to covering a weekend class, because I'm like, no, even if I'm free, like it's my time. Like it's definitely my time now.
Yeah, I know for me, within a month I'd started doing other stuff on weekends. I was like, oh, now I've got weekends, I'll do like outdoor activity days on the weekends, I'll run workshops on the weekends, and I'm just like, so I'm not like doing this job, but now I've made more work,
made my life more complex.
Which I love, so I'm not complaining about it.
I think that's what my dad's always said to me, was like, work in something that you love and you'll never work again. And it's not quite as glamorous as that, because it is still work, but
you
it definitely
more,
I used to work in the dental industry, and it wasn't a passion of mine. I was in there for 7 years, and I left to go traveling basically, and definitely makes a difference when you do something that you're passionate about or love, like 100%. Like I would dread going to work, and not because it was a bad environment. It wasn't my thing, It was paying the bills and whatever. But yeah, doing what you love is definitely the way forward if you have the luxury to do it.
Yeah. Would you ever do something that's not triathlon then? Would you ever look at competing in something else?
I don't know. Like, I like the idea of just doing cycling because I love it, but my runs come on so much. I'm like, it'd be a shame to like not still train my run and my swim even. Like my swim, like I put a lot of effort into my swimming, and I think that's the hard thing with me. And it's actually I used to do jiu-jitsu, so I've done a lot of sport already anyway. And I used to do jiu-jitsu, and one takeaway from jiu-jitsu was you'd be, rolling. So that's what, I don't know if you know much about jiu-jitsu, but you'd be rolling in your gi or no gi with somebody or sparring, you can call it. And you could keep going for the same attack. So you're trying to, I don't know, let's just say we're trying to get someone in an arm bar, and you can keep going for that same attack, and they keep blocking it, and you keep trying another way, and then eventually you just keep going, but you're like, I'm not getting anywhere. And something my coach Chris taught me was you've got to learn when to quit. Same with if I was in an arm, I'm hypermobile, so my joints do bend the wrong way, and someone's putting an arm bar on, and I'm like, if they do keep going, they probably are going to snap my arm. And it's learning when to quit. So giving myself enough time to maybe get out of it, but knowing if I'm stuck, then just tap out. Like, why get yourself hurt, basically? Or if you're being choked out, if you know they've got it, just tap before they choke you, because otherwise you're going to end up unconscious. And that's what I find with everything in life now, is learning when to quit. So like with yoga classes, when I had those 17, it was learning when to quit, not quit completely, but take a different route. And same with jiu-jitsu, it's like, okay, if you can't get that attack and that submission, let's try something else and go for another. And that's like what I think about with triathlon. It's like, I love it at the minute, and I don't see myself giving up anytime soon. But when the day might come where I should maybe pivot to something else, or challenge myself in a new way, and that'll be the hard bit, is learning when to quit. And it usually takes me a good year after deciding maybe I need to quit to actually fulfill that action. And but at the minute, there's not really another sport I'm super drawn to.
Yeah.
Ultra running, I don't think would be my thing.
So
but long distance cycling possibly. So like they do like the Halt route, which is over like maybe 5 days, or I don't know how many. You've got a certain amount of time to do it, but you can do it quicker possibly. But it's like you got to get from A to B in the quickest time, and there's certain checkpoints you have to go through, but the rest of the route you decide. So my coach Tom does them. He's not really sold it to me. It sounds horrendous. Like he had to walk up a mountain with his bike because you couldn't physically ride on the mountain, and then you would descend on the other side, and it was like, I swear it was like snow. And I was like, and you're carrying everything on you, obviously everything you need. So you can book into hotels on the way, but you've still got to carry everything you need while you're staying in said hotels. So I'm not converted yet, but maybe one day. I like the kind of, I can't think what they're classed under now, but like the Patagonia tri, where like these ultra tries where they might be longer than an Ironman distance, but they're in like savage locations, like when you're jumping off a boat into the sea and stuff. That sounds like fun. I don't think I'd ever want to do endurance swimming, like swim in the channel. So I don't know, maybe I'll completely pivot and do something completely different, but I don't know yet. Who knows? Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's sort of your ambitions with triathlon now?
I don't know. I guess originally I was like, I'd love to go pro one day. And, I could possibly get my pro card. I could, really work hard and target a race and get it. My coach thinks I have the ability to. My swimming could probably do with a little bit, a bit more, which I am working on. But then I think about my potential with getting better now as a 31-year-old, and I know women come into endurance a bit later. They can reach their peak a bit later, but it does make me think: would I always just be the bottom of the pack as a pro, whereas I could just be at the top as an age grouper? And I don't know, maybe like I could go for it just to see if I can, and I don't have to take it, and that could be a little goal for mine. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'd like to go faster at Wales, so I didn't get the time I wanted at Wales this year. I'm doing Wales next year. I'd like to get the time that I wanted to get this year next year. I would have had it if my swim had been as I had planned it to go. Nothing ever goes to plan with the swim for me, but I was a good 10 minutes slower than I know I'm capable of. And it was my slowest ever Ironman swim. I wouldn't say the conditions were particularly hard, but I did get stung by a jellyfish and I did have to pull it off my neck, which was horrific. So yeah, for now my goal is to do a faster Ironman, so do Wales faster, but after that I don't know. I would like to qualify for Kona, but we'll see. We'll see.
What is the qualification for Kona?
So it's not based on time, it's based, although that does play into it, it's based on where you place, basically. So if you win your age group, you get an automatic slot, basically, and you can turn that down. So say I got my slot this year because I won. I was offered a slot, but I turned it down, so it rolls down then to the next person. So they've just changed how they do the qualification system with Ironman. So usually there'd be so many slots per age group for men and both women, but it changed because a lot of women were complaining because it wasn't a fair split between men and women. So men were getting most of the slots and women were left with like nothing, basically. So they now have a performance pool, which they're still changing because it's still not perfect. But yeah, basically age group winners will all I think definitely have a slot, and then it runs into a performance pool of both men and women. So women's slots will run into the women's performance pool, and that then is based off time. So they'll base off, it's something to do with like the mean time or the average time across races and with that race and how it correlates and blah, blah, blah. And then you might get offered a slot. And then you can either take it or not take it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all far too complicated for me.
Yeah, I just turn up at the awards and if they call my name, I'm like, great.
Yeah, is there sort of anything else with triathlon then that's been like on like your lifelong bucket list of like that would be the like best dream experience that I could have?
I mean, I've thought about like different, like, so I'd love to do Roth. That's like a bucket list race, and I had the opportunity to do it a few years ago because now it's really hard to get into, and I wish I'd taken it now because it wasn't as hard then to get a space. It just sells out straight away, and I think it's a ballot now possibly. But before it was a ballot, I could have done it. And it's just meant to be an incredible experience. Although people that have done Wales have said like the support with Wales is pretty much matched in some areas of the course and stuff. So yeah, maybe get myself signed up for Roth. That would be pretty cool. But outside of like competing, I started coaching and I'm loving that. Like I never wanted to be not like I didn't want to be a triathlon coach. I just didn't know if I had like the capacity for it. But I started just over a year ago and I'm loving it, really enjoying it. And I think if I did step away from the competitive side of triathlon, I think I'd still race. But if I was able to get into that mindset of just doing it to enjoy it, then I'd probably open up my coaching more because I limit it for now because I haven't got enough time to have endless amount of athletes. You know, I want to make sure the athletes that I have get like a lot of one-to-one attention. So I think that's something I'd explore more if I did take a bit of a step back from the racing side of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
I always think that's a good way to stay in the sport and keep the passion for it without the pressure on yourself to perform all the time.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
like,
Kind of living it through other people.
Yeah. I've got like 10 athletes, like one of you could win.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I'm really rooting for them. And it's weird because it's very rare that I've gone to a race. I go to support people and I support friends racing and I'll, cheer them over the line and stuff, and that's great. But it's rare that I've had like my nearest and dearest racing when I'm not. So I've never gone to a race and like seen my partner or my best mate race. Because they're racing usually at the same time as me in the same race. But with the World Champs, the 70.3, so half Ironman World Champs this year in November, they were in Marbella, and the women raced on the Saturday and the men raced on the Sunday. So it was the first time I was able to actually watch my boyfriend race, because I'd never watched him race because he'd always been doing the same race and he's faster than me, so he finished before me. So other than maybe seeing him on the course, which was not likely a lot of the time, I'd never seen him like do the race. So I actually got to watch him race, and this was his comeback off after his accident, which was pretty cool. And that was incredible. And I've been able to watch a few of my athletes race, if they've, you know, been within the UK and that's been like so rewarding to see them doing it. And like, especially when you've worked with them and they've had doubts and they've worried about this part of the triathlon or getting out the swim, or oh no, like the bike, I'm really scared about the bike, and then you see them on the course smiling and then finishing smiling, or maybe even getting like, you know, an age group podium. It's like, oh wow, like this makes it so worth it, you know.
Yeah,
I can see how as a coach, like how rewarding it is to see people that you've helped get there. Like, it's quite cool. Yeah.
No, it definitely is. It's why coaching's so popular, I think, because
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, I definitely find it sort of more rewarding helping someone get there than doing it myself.
Yeah,
I get like
so.
a much better buzz from it.
I think so, yeah. I think it's because, like, you get in your own head with yourself and you put pressure on yourself, but when someone else is putting pressure on themselves and then you're able to like talk them down and remind them of things, and like it's like, like, you know, when someone does that for you, how nice it is to have someone to bounce your thoughts off. And you know, they, like, my coach is amazing. Like, I have many breakdowns to him over voice note about something, or in Training Peaks I'm ranting about something, and I'm like in my head, and he like pulls me out of it and we'll chat, and he's like, what's going on? Like, I'm gonna talk about it. And I'm like, oh, it feels so good. And then like, it's nice to be able to offer that for somebody else, and then see them go on to do the things that they were so unsure if they could do, you know. And like, I understand it now, because like my coach with Wales, like, I'm gonna have to pull out, oh, my running's crap, blah, blah, blah. And I was like proper down, didn't think I had the minerals to even do an Ironman this year. I was like, I just can't, like. And he, like, you know, for one, pulled up my data. I was like, well, look at this run you've done, and that one, it's the same run, blah, 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 look at how much, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously he was meant to be at the race, but his van broke down. He's from Cornwall, bless him. So he couldn't actually be there, and he was gutted, because obviously then I got the win. And he was like, see, I told you. And it's nice to be able to be that person now for other people and be like, I told you could do this.
Yeah.
And then see them do it.
No, it's just a completely different side of it.
It is, yeah. And it's so much more rewarding,
Yeah.
I think. So much more rewarding.
So going back then to that person you was when that call to adventure happened that we spoke about,
Yeah.
that one moment that put you on this path, what advice would you give that person?
Ooh, what advice? Well, this is a very ironic one, because it's not what I'm very not good at doing, but don't overthink it. Like, when you get an opportunity to do something adventurous or just to step outside of your comfort zone, as soon as you get that, a lot of us, well, I'm talking from my own perspective, but for me, for example, I get in my head about what could go wrong or what would happen if this happened, and it can not one just ruin their experience, but two, stop you doing something. And I say, just do it. Like, you know, I went to Australia for a year, like, hell of an adventure. But leading up to that, I had so many doubts. Oh, well, I'm leaving my job, my stable job, and I was only young, so I had no commitments in terms of like a mortgage and stuff. But I was like, oh, what about this? And maybe I should just knuckle down and work hard now and travel later. And then one day I was like, just fuck it. If I'm gonna swear, fuck it. And I just went to Australia for a year, and best thing I did. But I overthought it for so long, and that could have been the nail in the coffin that stopped me going. So I think if you get that call to just do something adventurous, just literally, as Nike says, just do it. Just do it. Just take that step forward, and you don't have to have it planned out either. Like, you can just take that first step and see where it leads. And you can have an expectation of what it might look like, and it probably won't be that. You know, like, you can have this is how it's going to look, and usually it doesn't look that way anyway. So just do it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Loved it.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you do with this healthier mindset, whether
same.
you push or like pull back.
Watch this space. Check in soon.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you want to find out more about what we do, you can head over to adventureathletes.co.uk. We've got a bunch of things going on at the moment, from coaching to sports massage to outdoor activity days to running events. We've got our first half marathon coming up in April, so you can head over to the website, find out all about it, and book your spaces for everything now as well. It's a really exciting time for adventure athletes all over the UK, and yeah, I can't wait to get more of you involved in that. Now, if you want to help us build the podcast specifically, Drop us a like, drop us a follow, share it as wide as you can. The more audience we get, the more likely we are to get bigger and better guests on the podcast. Not that you can get much bigger and better than the people that I've had on, because we have some phenomenal guests on this podcast, and it's just a real pleasure to be able to share all of this information with you guys. Until next time.